ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
89.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio. It's your old friend Virgil back once again with another installment of our amazing staff series where we get to pick the brains and get to know the folks behind the mask at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. And today, super excited to have a good friend of mine turned projection tech and kind of all-around helping hand at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. My main man, Scott, how are you, my man?
What's going on, brother Virgil?
Good
same
to see
stuff,
you.
man. You know, just yeah, you too. It's been a while, man. It's been November, right?
Yep.
Before the holidays. Man,
yeah, it's crazy.
Too long.
I know it's
too long.
And now that we're in kind of pandemic mode, I keep saying like it's great to talk to anybody, but it really is great to see you. We have a nice storied past. That's why I thought this would be the perfect kind of inside look for a fan, you know, especially somebody who is a regular at the theater like yourself now. So basic questions here. How did you first discover the Mahoning Drive-In Theater? I know a lot of the answers to these questions, and you can tie in kind of what your first screening was as well.
Yeah, it was Escape from New York. I was dating. She was my girlfriend at the time, Julie, and I was looking for something to do. And I was like, we should go see, because we were starting to watch retro movies. Like we were going to the movie tavern and watching Breakfast Club on a Wednesday night. So I typed Escape from New York and it popped up. The drive-in popped up that it was playing it. I was like, wait, what? I was like, there's no way. She had never seen it, period. And I haven't seen it on 35 since it came out. So it was just like a blessing. It was like the stars aligned and boom. So that's how I heard about you guys. But I'd also heard, because I serviced the Hazleton Theater. So a lot of those managers and staff would come down there and they would always say, oh, there's a drive-in down by Jim Thorpe. There's a drive-in. You should go to the drive-in. Oh, they're playing this, playing that. And I was always like, I'll check it out. But I never did. So when I Googled it and I saw you guys were playing Escape from New York and then it was They Live and Salt, I was like, wait, what? Dude, a triple feature?
What
For
are the chances
$10?
off of a pure Google search of not just the drive-in theater, but a specific movie that happened to fall on your list? That's magical. Well, you kind of alluded to it, but Scott does work in the industry, if you will, and we're not going to name it by name, but you could probably guess it. But it's funny because when I first partnered up with Jeff, I was running a vineyard and very much immersed in that world. And that fell to the wayside. And off of Jeff's kind of tutelage and I guess advice, I decided to jump into trying to run big indoor theaters and kind of hopped from one big box indoor theater to the next. And why don't you tell them the chance meeting that you and I had when I took on running one of these theaters and happened to run into the perfect drive-in van.
We were in where the main digital library was, and I was dealing with the one manager, and you had walked in and asked a question, and I was kind of like, I knew the voice and I knew the face, but I couldn't place it, and I was kind of like, I may have been a dick to you, so if I was, I apologize. But I was like, I had never seen you, but I knew you from somewhere. Like something clicked. And I was like, it's bothering me. How do I know this guy? How do I know him? And then the manager I was with, I asked, who is that? And she told me. I was like, that's how I know him. I said, from the drive-in. I said, Julie and I walked in. He was standing there. He was wearing, I can tell you what you're wearing. You're wearing your black vest, a red Mahoning shirt, and your scally hat.
My outfit.
And you were like, hey, how you doing? Come on in. Yeah. Dude, you welcomed us in and you were like, talking to us. And then me and, she was my girlfriend at the time, but we were like peeking into the projection booth and you were like, you can go in. And her and I looked at each other like, we can. And then Jeff was like, yeah, come on in. And then we BS'd for 20 minutes. That's that picture that I put up there of the projectors. Julie took those from that day.
That's incredible.
So it was at that building. It was just happened to be a chance meeting, and it was just like, oh wow. And then I came up to you, and we started talking, and then it just went from there.
We hit it off right away.
It just happened.
Yeah, the experiences that I've had at the indoor theaters, some have been great, some have been not so great. but definitely the real perk of that position and that experience was connecting with you, because it was a really hard position and it wasn't going very well. But, you know, I had this guy that I really connected with on a deeper level than just running the indoor, and the fact that he was great at his job and was always there to help me out running the indoor. But, you know, we kind of started getting into talking about, you know, deeper fandom, and, you know, we're both big Kevin Smith guys. And I remember you were like, came in the one day, you got to check out the picture of, you know, me with Muse from back at the, you know, convention. And right away I knew, like, this is my guy. So why don't you tell the people kind of how you became involved deeper than just a fan at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater? I mean, you know, I'm no longer working with Scott at the big indoor. I've since moved to another indoor. So we were able to connect through the chances that happened last season.
Yeah, we just, you know, connected, because I had known, once I figured out who you were, I was like, oh my God. And because I was a fan, because the documentary had come out also. And I was just like, wow. And I was telling the wife, I was like, we were there when this was going on. And so we connected on that level. Then we connected on it, you know, just the fandom. And then, I installed projectors and sound systems in the big box chain. Yep. I guess we can call them type of distributors. We got to talking, and you invited me up. You said, hey, could you come up and look at the digital booth if you have the time? And at first I was like, yeah, hell yeah. But then I was like, oh, maybe he'll forget and he won't call me up. And I kind of got a little sad. I was like, oh, but then you were like, yo, man, hey, can you come up? Like, I think it was like in a day or two. I was like, oh my God, yeah. We came up, and we retooled the digital booth.
That's really kind of what your forte is. What is your official title? I always say you're a projection tech, because, like, that's more drive-in.
It's hard to, like, put a name to it that people, like, when I go to get my taxes done, they look at me kind of weird, but the company calls us cinema system engineers.
Okay.
It's a fancy way of saying a projection and sound technician.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like rotor-rooter for your if your movie goes down or your sound goes down. You know, call me. I come running out the next day. I get you back up.
Oh yeah, we've definitely dealt with some nice hurdles for sure in the indoor.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Like, one company will call us cinema system engineers. Other people in the industry just call us techs or projection techs. So, but it's basically projection and sound technician.
Right.
Audio visual tech.
And that's kind of what Steam
anything with the
was, you know, the fact that we had decided to really up our game last season, the 2020 season, and a lot of that was relying on the fact that the digital booth can perform even more than it has in the past, which was just as a backup, really, in case a print didn't show up. Right. So, you know, with the circumstances that fell into our lap, I'm like, we got to get Scott up here. I was like, more than anything, it was for my peace of mind of, like, I know Scott knows whether this thing's going to go off without a hitch, whether I'm doing something wrong. So you came up and really did more than just kind of oversee the digital situation. You kind of retrofit and outfitted the whole entire thing as well, which is great.
Oh yeah. Because it's kind of like a childhood dream in a way, because I grew up at drive-ins. Basically, my parents loved the drive-ins, so we were there all the time as kids. And then to actually be a part of what you had going was like, oh my God, like there's no way that I would ever be able to be a part of this. And you were like, come on in, man. And I was like, it was almost like, go for it, dude. What can we do to get this booth where we need it? And I was really, seriously, all right, let's do it, man. Let's this is what we can do. Let's rock it. I think we pulled it off.
Destined. It's strange because, like, that's why I thought this would be so perfect is, you know, mine and Jeff's meeting and coming together and Matt's involvement and all that stuff was very, very destined. And then the documentary, you know, which kind of came out of nowhere and then swept us up, seemed very destined. And then the fact that literally I take on a theater that is in my backyard, like it's the theater I'd been going to since I was a kid. And within the walls of that, regardless of the experience, there was this guy who I'm just like, this is like, again, being the kind of Kevin Smith fan, he says it all the time. You don't go to film school to learn film. You go there to meet the people you're supposed to meet. And in a weird way, like my whole journey of life has kind of been like that. So you know, right away, I knew that even though I was exiting that theater, I knew that we would kind of stay connected, and then things kind of fell perfectly, you know. But you brought it up. Why don't you get into your past experiences with drive-ins? Like you said, you went to them as a kid. Same thing with me. Fell in love early.
As a kid, it was just me and my older brother. And thinking back on it, it was probably my parents' way of getting he and I to go to bed early so that they can enjoy the summer nights.
Sure.
But it was like a big thing for us because it was, okay, we're going to go the new Herbie movie. There was always a double feature. There's always a Herbie movie or Disney movie. But I always remember the Herbie movies. And it was like, well, we're going to go to the Herbie movie, but they got free labor out of me and my brother because we would wash the car, vacuum it. The windows were spotless. The tires, I'm shine. I mean, it was a thing. And we had a light dinner, and then me and my brother got in our pajamas, got our loaded up the car with the pillows and blankets, and we went. And we always fell asleep. And we woke up the next morning in our beds. But it was like that was pretty much our summers growing up. Was we were always at the drive-ins, and then that was at one part of New York, and then we had moved to Connecticut for about a year. When Star Wars came out, ironically, and we were at the drive-in, me and my brother hounded my parents. And then we moved back to New York, and the first thing we did was we hounded them to take us back to the drive-in to see Star Wars again. So we basically lived at the drive-ins, like, because where we grew up, the three towns, there weren't those giant megaplexes yet. You had a twin in your town, and it was like, oh my God, there's a twin. You had multiple choice. And then we had a fiveplex opened up, and it was, And then they kept getting bigger and bigger. And unfortunately, everybody just went that way, and the drive-ins all went, where they went. The last movie I saw at the drive-in was Predator. I remember that because that was the first time I was able to go to the drive-in with my friends by ourselves when we actually drove. But so then after Predator, we kind of, everything just fell off. Life happened for the next, 20-something years until I started dating my wife at the time and looking for things to do. And, took her to Becky's at first. We saw Pixels and Minions. That was our second date. She had never been to one. So it was like, what to do? And then the people at that theater always talked about the Becky's theater. So we went, and then found you guys, the Escape from New York weekend, the Carpenter weekend, and then hooking back up at that building. I basically grew up at a drive-in.
Is that why you think that you got into the industry?
Probably, yeah, because my parents loved movies. It was like my mom would work during the weekends, and my dad would quote unquote babysit us, which was there's a James Bond movie on at 1. Go get me a beer, sit down and shut up and watch it. That's how my dad babysat us. So it just growing up watching movies. And then every now and again, I'd see my mom would be up late night, and I'd sneak downstairs and just watch a movie with her. So movies, it's just been a part of me.
Yeah.
It's part of my DNA.
Yeah, I can certainly relate.
I wanted to be in the movies. I wanted to be a stuntman. Always wanted to be a stuntman, but I'm going to date myself a little here. The internet wasn't around when I was, in my 20s. So I'm sure I could have packed my car up and headed out there, but I didn't. But the information wasn't as accessible now. Yeah. So I started working at a theater. It was one way of being in the industry, kind of, and it just kind of took off from there. I mean, if I wasn't in school, I was at the theater, always at the theater, just for the movies. It's just the love of cinema. So I couldn't be in the actual movies itself, but I helped bring them to life.
Well, that's the beauty, and
that's my little.
You are somebody who is a true fan of the documentary, even before we kind of became friends. And, you hear it in the documentary. We talk about it. It is our way of kind of being involved in the industry and being behind the scenes. And we've talked about this many times, but now that the theater industry in general is so challenged, and we are seeing both of our kind of companies, Crown Theaters, struggling, and the drive-in has become kind of the hot ticket. We see it. It's like, man, we like to trade notes back and forth on what's going on, but it's really, I think, inspiring to people to see the documentary, especially with stuff going on, because it might take this type of heart and passion and drive for fandom to really get people back to the theaters, you know?
The indoors, I think, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be quite a while before they're even at pre-levels. You know what I mean? Because
oh yeah,
I just think people are just too worried, too scared. You know, you're getting all these mutant strains and stuff. But with the cinema, my mentality is like, I don't know. This could be somebody's first time at a theater, a little kid, first time at a theater. So I try to make everything look as best as I can, because, you know, that could make or break somebody. You know, a little kid could be like, oh, this was horrible. You know, the movie sounded bad, or stopping, didn't look good. Kid be like, I don't know. So I mean, I love doing what I do just for that fact that this could be somebody's first time, some kid's first time watching a movie, or it could be somebody on their first date watching a movie. You know, you got to make the presentation special. That's kind of another thing.
It is a great responsibility. And, you know, that is something that definitely shined through with you is, you know, you're great at your job, you're passionate, all that stuff. And that's why, like, when it came time to really need somebody to call on, it was a no-brainer. It was like, this dude's one of us, you know, like, I'm telling you, I knew that bringing you into the 35 millimeter booth again, because I don't remember bringing you in the first time, but, you know, bring you in again and meeting the crew and all that stuff. It's like, they welcomed you with open arms. I knew right away it was that type of situation.
Oh God, yeah, you know, that's the thing about the drive, and it's magic. It's like when you pull onto that lot, it's just magic.
Yeah,
and you get the sense of family. It's just like you feel like even people you don't even know, you've never met, you're like, they're kind of like family. Like everybody's looking out for each other. You're all here to watch, you know, Bruce Campbell and watch Evil Dead. You know what I mean? Like you're all there for that reason. It's just it's family. You know, when you get there, when you're there, you're family.
Well, that's the beauty, and we see both sides of it. Being in the indoor situation is like, the first thing I noticed right away, especially going to other drive-ins too, is like people pick up after themselves like crazy at the Mahoning, because it's like, it's this shared love, everybody appreciates it. And then you go to an indoor and it's like, you know, people are just throwing popcorn wherever the heck they want. It takes you a half hour to even clean the thing up. It's like, so it's night and day as far as just like an appreciation of it. But talk about a great crossover, like you said, with it being somebody's first experience at an indoor theater, and it could make and break. That's us on any given night, and something that I think the fans really have come a long way with being like, presentation is important to me, and 35 millimeter is important to me, where, you know, maybe their first time coming in, they might have been like, what even is 35 millimeter? So it's great to see converts on that level.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole group of people that they're like, you actually ran film? Like, how did you do this? Like, how many people can actually thread a projector now? There's not a lot of people that can still thread a projector head. It's a lost art. And you know, with digital, I mean, it's the digitals that were put in not that long ago are already obsolete. We're already, you know, installing lasers, and even the lasers, the first set of lasers are already obsolete. They've already improved on those. So like, you know, anybody can go up there and push a button. And half the time, these people that I'm not knocking the indoor industry. I will a little, but it's kind of cutthroat. It's kind of like everybody's. It's like, you know what it is? It's like that episode of Star Trek Mirror Mirror, where they're in an alternate universe. Everybody is looking to one up the next person to get a little bit ahead, and it's like, at least with my job, I'm up in the booths, so I don't have to deal with it, but I see it. The managers will come up in the booth, and I'm like Isaac from the Love Boat. I'm like a bartender, you know. They just tell me everything that's going on, and it's like, I get you. I mean, I came from management. I started tearing tickets when I was 16. I know what it's like.
Yeah.
But you know, the drive-in, it's not like that. It's everybody's there because they love the movies. They love, you know, but the thing is, like, keeping that drive-in alive. It's just magical. It's just a love. It's hard to put into words. Maybe that's why I keep stumbling over. I'm trying to find the right words. It's just magic.
Yeah. Well, there were definitely
it takes you back.
Priceless moments for sure on the lot last year, and you got to be a part of a lot of that. So why don't you give us some insight and the fans some insight on, let's say, a specific memory or two of last season that'll stick with you?
Bruce Campbell during the photo op.
Yeah.
And we all saw it. Every single person that was on that lot, people 20 miles away had to see it. We saw those clouds rolling in.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, oh, man. Wind started picking up a little. We can handle this. Get a little drizzle. And then the skies just opened.
Boom.
And I remember just everybody ducking for cover. And my first instinct was I left the door to the booth open, the digital booth open. I got to go shut it. I knew Andy was up there though, but I ran up there and oh my God, by that time the twister had come in. It was just bad. And I remember poor Andy was holding on for dear life for the tent, trying to keep it down, grounded. And I was like, I shut the door to the digital booth, ran over there and just held on for dear life with him. And it was over in what, like 2 minutes? It was like that.
It was the weirdest thing. Though that definitely has come up multiple times now in these interviews where it's like, you know, weather is a part of the drive-in experience, and people kind of know coming in, hopefully they're looking at the weather and they can say, I expect a little bit of rain here or there. And they were calling for slight chances, but this thing came out of nowhere. It was quick, it was furious, and it was perfectly, terribly timed, where Bruce was just finishing up his photo op line. We were just about to open up the gate to let a whole other slew of guests in, and it was insanity. But that's the type of stuff that like makes an event for us. Is I feel like if it would have went smoothly and like there were no bumps along the way, then we wouldn't have that memory burned forever in our brain, you know? Exactly.
The first night we did digital, that Mad Max.
Yes.
I remember I was so nervous and like, and it went off. It worked. But I mean, it aged me a little while. I was so nervous. Like, please let this.
It was glorious.
And it did.
There were a lot of those moments of like, you know, slow motion or freeze frame high five as we get this thing going. You know what I mean? But it was a lot of that this year, and that's why I feel like, you know, this inside look or behind the curtain look is going to be so appealing for people because, you know, a big appeal for what the Mahoning is we are passionate fans, even though we work within the industry and all that stuff. People feel like they're kind of akin to us. And the fact that you can really make something larger than life happen with some passion and tenacity and stuff like that, it goes a long way. So I'm certainly looking forward to the 2021 season. Well, let me say it. So one of my favorite memories of 2020 with you was same event, Bruce Campbell. But you were the best that night because you were running the microphones as well as like the digital situation with Andy. And I remember Bruce at one point, he goes, you were sanitizing between each question on the Q&A. And Bruce looks at you and goes, I'm bringing this guy on tour. He's great. And we looked at each other like, what?
The king spoke to me.
What's happening? I know.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
I remember saying to you that whole day, like, it was surreal going, hey, Bruce Campbell's on your lot. Bruce Campbell's walking around your lot. Like,
it is nuts.
What?
It's still nuts. And to think like now that has kind of propelled us into, you know, being a very much like a guest location, and drive-ins in general have become that over the last year with the pandemic of everybody wants to still put on their quote unquote show, and drive-ins are a great opportunity. But you and I know some inside dirt of things that are happening for the 2021 season. So without spoiling anything for the fans, what would you say about the 2021 season?
No spoilers, and I'm not giving any hints with any words or anything. I'm just get ready. It's strap yourselves in. It's gonna blow you through the back wall of the drive, and it's I don't think people really understand, like, know what's coming down. Like, it's going, man. You thought Bruce last year was good, and just hold on, man. Get ready.
And we are doing a lot of really great things with the digital again this year. And, you know, with the success of Bruce and having the other guests throughout the year, we're certainly swinging for the fences with bringing guests in, planning on doing Q&As, putting video up on the screen. And, you know, Andy really elevated that bar last year. And whenever we had a big show, we knew that we had to have you there. You know what I mean? And the two of you guys together work perfectly.
Oh, Andy's a good kid, man. He's got that little glint in his eye, the corner of his eye, when he starts talking movies, and you know that glint. So he's a good kid, and he picks up on a lot of stuff, and his passion is the kid. He's got it.
Yeah,
it's there. The fire's there. It's just got to be groomed, and like you're gonna go far, brother. Just don't rush it. Enjoy the ride, brother.
That's the beauty of this thing is like. We had a lot of new family members come into the fold and figuring things out over the last year, but I really feel like we have some people with us that could be with us for 40 years, and carry this torch on to the next generation. And, I certainly consider you one of those people. So I can't thank you enough for everything you do.
Hey, I can't thank you. I mean, you brought me into the family. Like, it's like, wow, you're like, come on in, man. Hey, if you want, you invited me into this, and it's like, wow, I in a million years I never thought that it would get that. I just figured, we'll just talk, we'll BS, and he'll move on, and he won't have me come up there. But when you're like, yeah, come on up, but yeah, thank you for inviting me in and allowing, like, you're getting what's been years of indoor stuff and just not being when you're around, when you're in the indoors, you can't really talk to people and get to know and tell them about like, I just watched Trancers 2 and I just picked up this, with Richard Lynch, there's this scene, and if I told you a scene, you would get it. You'd be like, oh yeah, but I never noticed that. Like, yeah, I'm telling you the other night I noticed this. Indoors, people aren't really like that. I mean, I'm not trying to knock the indoor. It's just two totally different experiences.
It's night and day.
Doing what we do.
We've seen the struggles of the indoor theaters, and we've talked about it many a time where there is such a difference from, renting out a seat and having a sterile experience that has really zero fandom attached to it anymore, versus what the Mahoning does, but what a drive-in can offer. And we talked about it. You were a midnight screener, right? Used to line up.
Oh yeah. I mean, back in the day before they did midnight screenings, we were doing midnight screenings. The staff and everybody. Kill Bill's opening up. We're watching it once we're done with the inventory and everything.
Totally.
You run the movie at 1:00. You're not getting home till 3-4 in the morning. But running late night movies. Oh yeah. I mean, after a while, when I got to my end of the business, I started like, I don't need to be there for screenings. I'm getting old. I need my rest. Now,
well, that's the perks of working on the inside. Is like you said, you can kind of create your own screenings, which is great.
But working, up here, it's two totally different things.
We've been asking all of our guests for this portion of the show. Do you have a specific spot that you like to park? I
park by the digital booth, not because so much that's where I want to watch the movie. It's just I have my tools and everything in my car, so that's why I park there.
Yeah.
So if something goes wrong, I just run to my car, run right into the booth. But there's not a bad spot on the lot, period.
Yeah.
But like when what was the last night with
Mose?
So I was parked down by you guys, and it's fine. So like, but it's just how people get that set spot. Like, I need my spot.
Yeah.
And you start to see, I've only been coming this past season, but I'm starting to see the regulars and who comes up, driving this and where do they park. And I feel bad because I'm like, I try to get here early. I'm not to take their spot, just because I need to be by the booth.
Totally. That's funny because there is a front row kind of crew, and the people that will come at 1:00, 2:00 for a 6:00 gate just to get their spot. But it's beautiful because we do have, some of our choice crew and, people like that they have their spot, and it's a great insight. And for you have probably the best spot in the house. The digital booth is like dead center glory.
I mean, I apologize to anybody if I pissed anybody off. Like,
that's your spot.
What's this Mustang doing here? Yeah, I just do that just because, like, when we have like an event going on, like when we had the film festival, the found footage guys.
Yes.
Like, I needed to have my stuff right there because I was like, but I mean, it wasn't like they didn't pull a Bruce Campbell crowd. I mean, and that's nothing knocking them. Those guys are great. I mean, but it was just like, I could park where I needed to park.
Totally.
Because it was like, all right.
Not have to worry about it.
I get to the booth. but it's like that. So, buddy, if I took your spot or anything, you know. But with the thing, I mean, you see me now, like they're like, oh, there's that guy that drives Mustang, and he's got that big Scooby-Doo freaking cooler all the time. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, you start picking out what other people are doing, and it's like this whole driving culture. And you start picking your own routine. You start making a kit for your car.
Oh yeah,
And you just start like, oh, they come here a lot.
Yeah,
you start seeing like on the Tunnel Vision Tuesdays. Yeah, and it's great getting to see them, and then hopefully this year maybe getting to know them, and then seeing where that goes. You know, like I don't really. I kind of kept to myself a little. I stayed in my booth. I didn't really start talking to a lot of people. So hopefully this year, it's like, all right, hey, so and so.
That's the gift of the Mahoning, is that it's gained us so many friends and friendships and the community, and that was really what we stepped out on. That was our foot was, we're gonna make sure that this is a community space for our community for a long time, and it obviously took on a life of its own and kind of has become this legend. But our whole thing is we're just gonna keep feeding it, doing what we love, having fun together. And like you said, to tell people buckle up for the 2021 season. We're pulling out all the stops, but it'll be good.
It's I can't wait.
Well, I can't thank you enough for I can't wait to get back together on the lot. We're only 8 weeks away as we speak.
Hell yeah.
So, we'll be kicking things off in true Mahoning fashion with our Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka double feature. So on that note, this is Virgil from Mahoning Drive-In Radio signing off. If you want to drop your name in there, my friend, signing off.
That's Scotty B, the guy that hangs out in the digital booth. The weird guy that's in the digital booth.
The Mustang.
There you go.
Love it. Mm-hmm. All right. And on that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night, and God bless you.